Hello, for the second time, genuinely live this time. More live streaming fun, as always. I have with me, let's bring them in, nice full screen, Finlay and Jamie from Future Sound Systems. We've now got that ridiculously silly moment entirely created by me of saying the same things we have been doing for 10 minutes. As if we hadn't just been saying them for 10 minutes.
This is great, given what we just said about the intro being similar to the Brunswick and Portland video, that we were just going off the cuff. Now we're not. This is fully rehearsed.
Yeah, exactly.
So fully rehearsed off the cuffness.
That Brunswick and Portland video, let me find that. Right off the bat, let's find that. Let's set the tone properly. From Brunswick to Portland. As I do that, hello to everybody that's watching. Here is some wonderful thumbnail work from me. I rarely say it, but I loved that not everybody noticed we'd inflated your head, Finlay.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think some people genuinely said, "What kind of lens was that?"
Really?
Yeah.
It's just
anamorphic.
It's I mean, it's not. I don't mean it like I'm saying you have a big head, but it's not so ridiculous. It's blindingly obvious when it's in a sea of YouTube thumbnails. It's just enough to be a hang on a minute, which is what I was hoping it would do. Just catch some attention.
Lady Madonna with a big head.
Yes, it's kind of uncanny vanity almost.
Yeah.
Ish.
I need to try and find that video. We were talking about with the false start that we had. That it's nice to see you both in that space and being able to work together in kind of current climate. And I was there last year, hoping to have been this year around Machina Bristronica again. But the video link I've just put in the description from Brunswick to Portland, let's pull those up actually, because they deserve a little shout out, was not quite literally Brunswick and Portland is in the place, but the drum machine, Portland, and Brunswick, Beef. Again, there's more videos on all of these, and I'll pop links in the description shortly. But yeah, it's good fun. Nice little spot. Did you have your own pick and place there as well? Had you just got a machine as well at the time? Are you still doing that?
Yeah.
You still picking placing yourself?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
all of our stuff is built by us. We have two little rooms in this building, so this is our like office space, and then we have a very, very small factory room that has our machinery in. So we couldn't actually stream from in there. I don't think it's too small.
No, that would be quite an interesting experience. Yeah, would feel far more clinical. But it's. I mean, especially compared to where we were working out of, this is heavenly, really.
No, it's a cool space. I think it was
Thanks, man.
We did the video sat talking and playing around with Brunswick and Portland, and I think it was an unlisted link, the full kind of like looking around the pick and place thing that we did. So I remember went and stood in there. For those that maybe don't pay attention to YouTube descriptions, which is of course fine, there are often little nuggets in there, and I quite like the idea of being like, I'll just put that in there unlisted and let's see if anyone notices. And sometimes people don't say things. It may be new modules that aren't released yet, and there's an unlisted link to it right at the bottom of a description somewhere, and you're just kind of thinking, I wonder if it gets a handful of views.
Does anyone go look?
Yeah.
It sometimes does, but I think people largely don't pay that much attention, which is fine, because you're watching a video. You don't need to go read the script that I give you in the description. But should you wish, there is videos looking at all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we're here to chat about, let me pull up some pictures, your new pin matrix, the MTX8. For anyone that's missed this, I'll put demo links in the description shortly. But it's an 8 input, 8 output pin matrix that you can parity mix, meaning even level mixing. You can route, you can create feedback, you can work in stereo, series or parallel or both at the same time. It will take audio, but it will also take CV, guitar level audio, line level audio, modular audio, anything up to plus minus 15, I think it is internally. You throw anything at it. If you want to throw rhythms in and drop pins in, routing rhythms around, that's a really fun way to work. But we maybe go back a little bit. Where did the pin thing come from, Finlay? You had the MTX9 first.
Yeah.
But beyond that, was it just a bit of synthy love, a little bit of VCS3.
Yeah, it was kind of. I mean, I think really spending some time in the Moog Sound Lab UK that was back at our old university, University of Surrey. They had a VCS3 there, and really actually getting into the ways of working with that, with the pin matrix. I mean, it's incredibly wonky, but it does offer so many interesting things. And I mean, commuting. Oh, amazing! We actually have
the original prototype of the pin matrix.
Yeah, this is the proof of concept.
The patented Finlay Shakespeare pin matrix sandwich.
So between yeah, a little 6x6 thing between commuting between like Bristol and Guildford, gave me a lot of time to just sit and think in the car, and I had this like kind of idea where, well, if you just take these tiny little 2mm banana pins and create a summing matrix by having a resistor on every single node of the matrix. So in the EMS Guilmetti matrices, you have pins with 2 terminals, and then between those 2 terminals is a resistor that gives you the kind of summing element.
They're like little jacks, basically, with the resistor inside them. Yeah.
And the kind of way around that for us at least was to instead then put a resistor on every single node of the matrix. So obviously with through-hole tech, that's, you know, kind of totally unreasonable, but surface mount, meanwhile, means that it can be done. So if anyone has taken apart their MTX9 or even an MTX8, you'll see on one of the cards there's just loads of resistors, you know, however many points there are, whether it's 81 or 64. So at first we had that done at a little place in Bristol, who actually did a really good job, and then for the second run just never got back to us. So yeah, kind of did a few by hand, which was really terrible. And then we got our pick and place machine, what, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah.
Ish, 2 years ago. And that just lets us do everything. So yeah, and then we were essentially just thinking of products to make, and said, well, why don't we do like the MTX9 in a standalone form? And that's kind of how it came about. I mean, I should also mention, like, with that little proof of concept thing, I had that wired up to the modular for a while, and I think I showed it to you, Ben.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and you said, you know, oh, you've got to turn this into a module, and I felt really iffy about it. I was like, is anyone going to take this on? Because you're just patching with pins rather than with cables. But then it was soon very obvious that as soon as you get that ability to just split and mix completely at will, that's really the massive advantage of that, at least in modular. And I mean, with the MTX8 now, it's
we always thought it'd be like a bit more useful if it wasn't, because you're kind of already patching stuff on a modular synth.
Yeah.
So if you had things, like your pedal boards are a pain. You know, people who've got lots of outboard don't want to have to necessarily pay or solder their own, you know, jack field or whatever. So,
but that was really where the MTX8 came from. Is we were just thinking of like, well, what can we do as a product? And it's really been Jamie that's taken it from kind of like the initial concept to the finished thing. I've had very little to do with the design of the thing, and it's been really good to see it grow. I mean, yeah, it's been fantastic.
We kind of like experimented a bit with making enclosures with the kit stuff that you did, Portland and Brunswick.
Yeah.
And then just that is because it's made out of PCB material, the case, which is, I think, quite a nice material, because you're basically touching metal because it's copper underneath the solder mask.
Yeah.
But it makes us able to do that without having to have high tooling costs. And also just like aluminium it's expensive, and then it's often not as good as you really hope it would be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of waste. PCBs are not quite like that. Much less waste.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. There's I'm just going to bring it over on screen, but I've put the link in the live chat for anybody. It was if I shared that it was 2017. I was going to say a good couple of years ago. You brought you just brought the passive MTX9 into Eurorack. There was then the active board that would go on the back as well, and you did a 3-module challenge with it, and that was very. I had a pair of VCS3s at university that I had access to for a few years, and knowing some lecturers now in a more kind of friendly relationship, still luckily have access to if I want to go try them or sample them or record something or play around. So been back lots of times and played with them, and that just the bleed of the passive version, and it just kind of signal flying all over and just feedback. It's a really nice thing that you went all in on that video. I suggest people watch that when we're done if you're interested in that kind of thing. Production are in the live chat, just to say hello to everyone in the live chat. So they take it there is a passive and active models. Yes, for the MTX9, the Eurorack one, which again I will pull an image up of and a link, there is a passive and an active one, so it's up to you to choose what you would wish. They're upgradable as well, aren't they? If you buy a passive one, you can put the active on the back.
We should also, I mean, we had planned at launch to have a passive version of the MTX8 as well, mainly for it to be cheaper than the other two, but unfortunately it would just be a bit weird we couldn't make it cheaply enough, essentially. The cost of making it is in our time to assemble it, basically, and the passive one would be quite expensive. For a passive one, people would just end up buying, I think, the active one. We could make passive ones if you wanted to, but I think we haven't priced it up, but exactly, but it would probably be not really worth it.
Maybe like 10 or £20 off the price. It really won't be anything at all.
So it's a bit of a shame because there's a lot more assembly involved in that than there is compared to the MTX9. So yeah, I mean, if the people have been talking about the price quite a lot, and you know, we're not trying to be greedy with it, but it is quite expensive to build. And if you do want to get the same thing more cheaply, then buy an MTX9. It's not got the same connectors on it, but it is the same thing essentially. You could get you get a passive one and a little case that has no power, and it would be really cheap.
A passive matrix.
By all means, go ahead and do that. But unfortunately, like, it is as much as it is. It's our first standalone product, and there are it's quite expensive to make something that exists outside of a world of power supplies and everything. So
it's quite amazing how much cost is in just the kind of like having the custom enclosure and the labor time of making that up. I mean, the cost of the electronics is relatively minimal when compared to all of that.
It always is. The actual like component cost is always the small bit, Having seen that with modules I've been involved in, I mean, you get that if you just anyone that's done DIY and you kind of add up a BOM and a panel and a PCB and you kind of think, oh, it's not that expensive, but then you think, well, it took you 3 nights to solder it, which is fine as an activity for those that like DIY, but it's like nobody else should spend evenings soldering it for free because it's their job. I think it's always a hidden thing. It is the cost of things. People don't see it, but
so we have seen people buying the MTX9 around our release of the MTX8. So clearly there are that is a good alternative for people. So go for that if it's on the pricey end for you. But hopefully our next product will be less expensive because we'll have learned a bit more about how to make a standalone product. But that's
just zooming in on your
backstory.
Zooming in on your video, Finlay, yours was just hanging out of the case, just passive.
We had a small batch of panels made where the fab house had just not drilled any of the holes for the jacks.
Oh, that's nice.
So I had all these like kind of like base plates where I could just have that as a base plate, put some feet on it, then put some standoffs through. And that's all that is. It's just an MTX9. I think the passive version. Yeah, it must be the passive version. Just raised off the ground by another panel at the back. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Peter Rayberg, funnily enough, at Amago is that's how he's using his. Is just out
floating
of the case.
Out of the case.
I gave him like all the bits for a little
stand,
makeshift stand for it. And that's how he's using it. So. Yeah.
Well, just to bring the live chat in again, we've a few questions we can fly through fairly quickly. We're
looking down. It's to look at your chat, guys.
Yes, yeah, we're not being rude. We're not checking emails. We're checking the chat.
Dual tracks. We'll save the new things come in for towards the end and see how much or how little they want to tease with that one. Nice shirt from Dark Sparkler. The Buchla Source of Uncertainty Probability.
Oh yeah.
That's Kyle's podcast. Give them a little shout out. Very nice t-shirt as well, Kyle. Very comfortable. What was a couple of the questions? Could we see a demo today on here? I'm not set up to demo it, and it would be nowhere near the quality of the several long days I put into the actual demo, so I don't want to do myself an injustice by doing something inferior. I will link the demo in the live chat shortly. I very much suggest watching that. And like all of my demos, the first minute or so is a preview of everything to come. So I won't be offended if anyone watches it in 60 seconds and goes, not for me. I mean, just to kind of first minute, that is what this video is. So hopefully you hear something you like, and it's going to be in much better quality. I want to see a demo of the MTX9. Very much the same thing. Production style. Very similar. Anything you'd want to route in and out. Logan Login asks, is it buffered inputs? I presume they mean for the active version or for the MTX8.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's all buffered.
MTX8 is fully buffered. The MTX9 is the only one you can get passive. Yeah.
But
you also have the choice of adding the active board on. So.
Yeah. Or removing it, I guess. Can you remove it?
Yeah, if you want it. The MTX9 is a bit of a cabling nightmare because I tried to be a little bit. I essentially tried to make the cabling so it was difficult to rip off, very easily, which is a joke, because it then makes it quite difficult for people to actually install the thing. So again, sorry if anyone in watching this has had trouble installing an active card. We do get quite a few emails, and we're always quite apologetic. Like, we know we made this really horrible. Sorry.
Should also, can I just say, so some people are commenting about DIY kits and SMD parts. We were thinking. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to do the MTX as a DIY kit, but we might possibly Brunswick and Portland. We were thinking about, because it is quite a long build on both of those, and people can still have the satisfaction of soldering the controls, but maybe have some of the electronics done for them.
Yes,
which we might do. We've got a lot of things on our plate, but
there's a lot of ideas, and I think there's a lot of fun that we could have.
Like a semi DIY kit. Could be very fun.
There's a couple of things, just as I pull it up to share the link. A couple of things in the demo that, being into tape, it was of course kind of one I had to do, but just, I mean, it's ridiculous. Having 4 tape delays is kind of nuts, and I'm not expecting that's going to be an average use case for people, but having that 4 nice pieces of kit, be them pedals or modules, and being able to think, right, I want stereo at the end, but I'm starting in mono. I want to go through a couple of things in series. Or maybe it'd be cool if the Echoplex and Space Echo are in parallel. Maybe if one of them's on the left and one of them's on the right. Oh, I wonder what happens if I drop a pin in and there's feedback. And there's a couple of points playing with this patch with the 4 tape delays where certain pins would just blow the sound out with feedback because I was just looping everything back on everything else, as any feedback would do. But then other moments, that just freedom of dropping pins in, I'm sure led to routings that I wouldn't have thought through. In terms of feedback crossing maybe a stereo image where 2 delays are on one side and not the other, but the feedback actually went round. So I was just freely, if I drop a pin in that bottom 4 corner, that bottom right corner, it's going to be feedback. It's just kind of dropping them in and out and then edited around, finding nice ones for the video. A really lovely thing. Another patch just to highlight that worked incredibly well. Go on, sorry.
Just to step in at that point there as well. It's you're going to laugh at this, but that kind of thing is a really good case for like the gain staging with the MTX8, because we've had a few people say like, oh well, a matrix mixer, it's more interesting because you've got pots. Yeah, okay, but then with the fact that everything's unity with this, it forces you to think about the gain and the levels at the actual like device level if you've got input and output levels. So something like that Space Echo there is really kind of neat with this, because you can overdrive the input a lot but then have the output level all the way down. So then when you start doing feedback with that, it will really blow up, but it's not the output level is going to be relatively limited. So there's a lot of kind of weird and wonderful things you can do with that. Again, it's kind of like, it's not a matrix mixer. It's definitely like a routing matrix, but it does force you to be creative with levels. And within that respect, you can run into some really interesting things. Very, very much a kind of happy accident machine. So
yeah, and most pedal, it's not something you see on modules, because we use VCAs and other things to manage levels and signals. But pedals have a level out. Nearly all of them. Most bits of rack gear and the tape gear there, they've got in and out levels, or at least on the kind of cheaper ones that were there, it's input level. It's all manageable. I didn't find a situation where I kind of thought, this is a pain, or it's tricky, or God, it really needs X, Y, or Z. It just worked.
With pedals, I mean, all pedals they're designed to be used in a sequence, in a chain, and so you have to have level control at every stage, or else it wouldn't work. So I think you don't really necessarily need. It would be cool to have a matrix mixer, but that would be a much more complicated and elaborate offering.
But there's little passive utilities as well, like RYO made those attenuators. Mutant Modular makes some. There's the Cats Full of Ghosts, I think it was, had a Kickstarter recently. A little passive utilities that would be an attenuator or a NOR mixer, or there's ways of just interjecting a level control in a cable and very easily. One thing where feedback was really cool, and it's really not surprising because I didn't think it would be nice, but surprising how tape-like it was. This particular patch with the Neon Egg Planetarium, which is a lovely pedal and does lots of tape stuff, and you push the instability up, and it will start to sound like tape anyway with its digital emulation. But running just into a pedal and making a feedback loop that goes through your preamp then just kind of instantly sounded like the tape stuff I was doing earlier, to the point I was like,
interesting.
I could put those two in a rucksack, and I've spent 4 hours messing around setting 4 tape delays up, and I've kind of got the sound in 5 minutes. And then
it's
there's lots of tape emulations, and as I say, the Neon Egg does a great modelling of all the instability and the warble of cassette or reel to reel. It does a great job, but it's that saturation I find a lot of the time. Matthew Shaw and I were comparing the Strymon Volante to a couple of these tape delays, and they'll do the wow and the flutter, but it just never does that analog drive kind of magic of just, the delays don't just disappear into kind of filters, they're just getting crunchy and noisy. And the preamp in the MTX8 just did it. So it's just each repeat is just feeding back into clipping each time, and it just kind of disappeared into noise really, really nicely. And
I really liked that bit of the demo. That was kind of like, oh wait, I haven't thought about that. That's really neat. More of that. I need to try that actually.
That was the patch. I think I messaged you a few days ago. I was like, I can't see a reason why you would get the version without the preamp. And you made the point of, if you wanted to do 4 fully stereo chains, you would not want the pre. But it's like, I could have 3 stereo ins and a pre and a clean mono in. Like, just there's no reason not to get that one. It did make me wonder, and maybe this is jumping towards the kind of questions people tend to wrap up with, but is there any other kind of, long term, don't give anything away if you don't want, but getting into pedals or studio gear or preamps or just the way that worked? I was kind of like, all I was like, they'd make a great 500 series pre. They'd, you could make a great distortion pedal filter box. All these little bits of things. And knowing both of your studio backgrounds, like, oh god, I bet they'd make some killer desktop pedal 500 series rack, whatever you want kind of gear.
I mean, it's definitely something we want to kind of move into. This really is. I mean, Brunswick and Portland were kind of like tests as to, can we do something that stands on its own, but also in a very, very, very cheap and easy way. So we can offer it as a kit, that gets people interested in stuff. This is really the next step this is a fully standalone product. Like, it has its own power supply. It works. You put it on a table. That's it. Done. And lo and behold, I mean, Jamie's done an absolutely fantastic job in terms of this being a thing. I remember when like the prototype enclosures arrived, and I was just like, this is it. All right, let's do this.
He stood on it immediately.
Yeah, immediately. It was just like, this feels really.
This can't go in a pedal board. Someone's going to step on it and break it.
Yeah, that was my main concern. Was like, we keep saying this thing will go on a pedal board. Is it really, does it stand up against those little like die-cast aluminium boxes? And it really does.
It's composite.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Composite material.
It's basically
all the
carbon
way,
fiber.
Yeah.
I love that. There's something really satisfying about. I remember Ross Lamond years ago. He'd found some pin, and it gave her a kind of like ridged, rugged black. Almost looked Tolex-ish, but it was just a spray on plywood in a case he'd built. And he sent me a video, and he kind of, says hello, puts the phone down on the edge of the curb, and literally just hurls this case right across the street, and then gets the phone, walks over to it. It's like those phone case videos where they drop them down flights of stairs. They're so satisfying. Yeah. I didn't stand on this, but I'm glad that you did. I like this. Someone's going to stand on it because it's going to be next to pedals.
Yeah.
And
we even stood on a pin in it, and I think the pin snapped.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest doing that, but it will. When we tested it, we could actually. It didn't like widen the hole out. It just broke the pin.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I really like those. Rob Hordyke, you might have been sat there, Finlay, at Modular Meets Leeds a couple of years ago with Rob Hordyke. And I think it was Rob mentioned, liking those 2mm bananas, and that if he was not going to do his 5U thing or his Benjolins and his little boxes and things, that he liked to work with 2mm banana as a patching thing. And there's something about it. I mean, there's no hiding that I like 4mm bananas, nuclear surge and things like that.
Yeah.
It's great to patch it, but almost like a Bantam. I like the 2mm banana thing. I'd like to see more of it, and I'd like to see more of it on other gear. Sometimes see things and there's an obvious choice a lot of the time to go 3.5mm if it's going to work with modular. It's like the pins on the Pulsar that Soma did. I'm glad they didn't just put 3.5mm jacks all over it. I'd love a kind of odd little, I don't know, maybe it's like an MS-20 and not all the patch bay is shrunk down and it's 2mm banana over on the right hand side or something. That could be cool.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yeah.
Can you get them as cables and not just pins?
You can. So they are designed. The pins we use are just cable connectors that we just haven't put a cable into. So we were just saying in the false start thing that the MTX, when Finlay designed the MTX9, because it's buffering, so buffering stages usually invert the signal. He put twice as many stages in to re-invert the signal so that it's in phase in the matrix. So if you make a wire with a pin on the end and you insert it into any point in the MTX9, it's in phase, so you can take it out of the matrix in that way. But we found that no one ever did that, and so in the MTX8 we didn't bother. So if you do that on the MTX8, it'll be out of phase because it's less power hungry and less the chance of accumulated error in the signal and things like that, and less noisy. So we didn't do it on MTX8. But you could just solder a wire on, get a ground from one of the screws on the matrix, and you could take it out of the matrix.
It's quite you get into the world of like 3-dimensional patching, which I tried. I think I showed it at a couple of synth meets, and I tried explaining it to people, and I didn't really even understand it myself, because you can take a signal out of the matrix like that, but you're also creating that patch. So you're okay, but you can also put a signal in.
Yeah, you can also inject into that.
Yeah, it all gets a bit.
It's quite confusing.
Mad.
Would not recommend.
Yeah. It all goes a bit bushworld. So
it's also twice as bad for the environment.
Yes,
because that's the MTX9 is very current hungry, and that is part of the reason why.
Yeah,
it's got more op amps than it needs to.
Gets quite warm.
Yeah.
You see that on lots of things though. Lots of modules where VCAs whose outputs are inverted, and largely it goes unnoticed for a long time until you bring them back together and they just kind of null out. Good for feedback paths though. Negative feedback paths always work nicely.
Yeah. Well, the outputs are in phase, obviously, but if you were to take it out of the matrix in a way that is possible, but we have never shown how to, then it would be out of phase.
Maybe we need to do that as a little joke video or something.
3D patching intro.
3-dimensional patching. That would really, oh god. I mean, it makes my brain hurt.
Yeah,
and
I don't want it.
It's horrible. I keep finding all the little cables like back at the old place, and it's just like, I mean, it is vile because to make them like work with the connector, I've used like just braided bits of wire, so they feel absolutely horrible. But it's a if anyone really wants to just melt their brain for a few hours, just make one of those cables up and
solder some wires into your banana pins. And have fun.
Nice.
Try and find what reality is again.
You need to inflate the head bigger than we did in the Brunswick to Portland video.
Yeah,
in the thumbnail.
It needs that like mind-blown meme thumbnail. Just got ultra clickbait. Deep kind of Hollywood film
super
voice.
High contrast.
Patching in 3D like never before. And there's certainly a few music tech companies that make big claims that are nothing. You genuinely would be blowing some minds with the idea of patching in 3D.
Yeah.
It'd probably be best not to think about it too much.
Well, the one real thing that I've wondered about it is like it's stuff like that Seat Lombard stuff where they're nodes, they're not inputs or outputs, so they're kind of like circuit building blocks that you're connecting together. That's really the one case where I'm like, this would be really mad. You've already got the absolutely mad electronics behind all of that anyway, but if you added this tier of like cubic patching, I don't want to think about it anymore. Can we move on? I'm not comfortable anymore.
We're probably creating more confusion than anything else. There's some nice images in the manual just to really kind of push on what this can do for those that haven't seen the demo yet. You want to put mics, different things in there, and ultimately just route to anything. I wanted to share these probably just because the manual's nice.
We're very proud of the manual. Our friend Ruth Ingemels, who's an illustrator, she did all the little graphics for us. We wanted to make a bit of an effort with the manual because, when you buy an MTX8, you get this in a little paper form, and I think it's a really nice little springboard to get you going. That one, interestingly enough, shows you how to make your MS-20 2mm banana pin matrix. So you can. That's one configuration you could use it in if you wanted to. Bring out whatever jacks on your synth onto it, and then patch it like it was a VCS3.
There's something. It's that kind of play that it encourages, though, isn't it? Because it could be a Mini Brute 2 or 2S or something.
Is
a synth I've taken to festivals, and it's a science tents and things like that. Deershed, it's a synth I let people play on, and a bit of modular and that. But a full synth is sometimes a bit intimidating, and for those that it's not intimidating to, we potentially have some habits and ways that we may be stuck in, which might be great, that might be working perfectly for the music we want to make, but it does just encourage you. What happens if I just do that? Even more so than a jack, because modular, you can do that anyway. It's a perfect format to sit there and wonder what audio rate mod of resonance is, and I wonder what if I patch that back in there, and if a module's well designed, you're not going to break anything. It might stop, it might not do what you think, but you can generally just do whatever you want. There's something about not looking at everything else that's going on and just being on that, this is the thing I'm working with. And genuinely, I'm not saying it because you're here or because we're doing this or we've worked together on the demo, just with those tape delays, I definitely routed them in ways I haven't before. And being tape, it was really noisy. But kind of listening through the noise, the way it was feeding back in stereo across those series and parallel routings were really, really great. I lost like a day doing that. Just kind of endlessly playing around. What's the MTX9 manual like? Is there a manual for the?
I was going to say this is
not
the full thing, but
it's. I've got it here.
I've
got one in this box.
Oh, fantastic! It's all A5.
The MTX9 we haven't done a manual before ever, but then we've also never done a standalone product before. So that's the actual paper version of the manual that you will get when you buy your MTX8. Which is also why it's in the strange order in those little screenshots. But I mean, it is a bit of a thing. I think it's interesting to see people use it because, like, you did things in your demo that we didn't imagine would be done. So it's very much in the same way. I think having every choice leads you to struggle a bit with where to start, and so that's why we wanted to do a little manual, so people have somewhere to start.
That's the thing. We've had people like ask, well, what would I use this for? And it's like, well, it's a bit like asking, well, what would you use a mixer for? What would you use? I look at it from a signal point of view. It's like analogous to giving someone a pad of paper and a pen and just saying go. You're not going to tell them like, well, write me a story or draw me a load of still lives. Like it is whatever you want to make it. If you want to make it some kind of like mad hub of these are all your triggers for different drum voices coming in from your sequencer, you can do that. If you want to use it for audio, and it's just to
you can use it in a very simple like serial way if you wanted to, just to have your pedals always plugged in and ready to go.
Split and mix.
Yeah,
if you want to just bring everything in, that it's like, well, I know that I'm always changing the configuration of these channels and these signals around, then it's perfect for that. I mean, I'm thinking at the moment at the studio, like, should I actually just get one and plumb it into? I've got like a little Bantam patch bay, and that's a patch bay itself. But then if I had this connected to that, it gives me yet another kind of layer of just saying like, well, I'm just going to connect these 8 ins and these 8 outs, and then just go da 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 da. What does it do?
Almost back to 3D.
Yeah, 3D patching. We're back into 3D patching. That's why I haven't done it yet, because I'm scared my head will split in two and I'll end up with like 4 arms and 6 legs.
For me,
that could be handy though.
I've been thinking, for the new space, I've spoke a few times, but again, for those that don't know, I'm currently having some construction work done on the house, and I'll be moving out of this cluttered, smaller room into a not huge but bigger room, better laid out from the start, literally from the ground up. And I was thinking, typical Jasper's keyboard stand, get arms on with little digitones and some pedals and some desktop stuff on little stands and some keyboards. And I was thinking, constantly back and forth, as anyone is doing the kind of project studio thing, of like, I need central patch bay, all my interface in, everything's plumbed in, it needs to be ready to go, like turn the plugs on, hit record kind of thing. And I was like, I wonder, what do I do with like the keyboard rack? Because I don't need them all in, and I don't need another like ADAT expansion just to get every single one in, like extreme. But I do need maybe 2 stereos to it, and maybe a stereo send and return. So I was kind of thinking, is that where this then lives for me, or do I need one that is permanently attached to that, where 4 outs feed 4 recording channels? So it's as simple as pin. All right, I want the Casio CZ or the whatever that's going to input whatever it is on the interface, but maybe outputs 1 and 2, and then I have the other 2 as that stereo send and return. All right, I do want to send to the pedal board or to the rack or to the modular. Just a really simple way of. And you mentioned, I forget, you could use a permanent marker, and then would you just isopropyl it off if you?
You can use any sort of alcohol based pen is fine. Sharpie, or we have these little like shape, what are they? Stettler Lumo colors that you write on with that, and it takes a bit of rubbing to get off again, but Sharpie's easy to get off. Just use a Sharpie.
Just thinking, do I Sharpie in like a permanent, this box routes this whole rack as much as I need in and out. Heimbach in the chat, hey Heimbach, is switching audio channels with this noisy? He means loud pops or a bzzz when inserting pins.
Nope.
You're not going through the ground, are you? I guess that you would with jacks. So it's not like Eurorack patching where the tip is being pulled through the ground as you go in and out. I've not noticed any noise with it personally.
No, there isn't. Yeah.
The only thing that you might encounter is if you've got some pins that are really worn down,
Yeah.
Again, this even goes back to like the MTX9 proof of concept thing. The whole thing with that was to make everything as standardized parts. So if you ever need spares, even spare cards for the Matrix, you can email us and we can sell those.
Yeah, we
to
can
you.
rebuild them if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. The pins themselves, you can either buy them from us or there are other vendors that sell 2mm banana pins. It's just a standard, part that you should be able to find online.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really tried to kind of cover all bases with that. So that's the only kind of point of, it's a bit scratchy.
Yeah.
I get another pin out and it's fine.
In testing them, I managed to wear out pins.
Yeah.
Because the pins are not super great, but I mean that is just going one to the other for like,
hours at a time.
6,000. I think I did about 4,000 jack cycles before one started to be like, oh, it's a bit wobbly.
Yeah.
So
I love that was like the day's job, just a human.
Yeah, no, I did.
Poor Jamie.
I've done 125 so far, so 64 points times 125. Yeah, is that 10,000 yet?
Yeah, it was
pretty much 10,000 jack, 10,000, and then testing ones that had problems as well.
Oh, it was really funny because this was like mid lockdown, so
I spent most of lockdown just putting 2mm banana pins into matrices.
I mean, I remember I was sat there like doing all the OSC2s and thinking, I'm driving myself a bit mad here, and then I'd speak to Jamie and he's like, no, I've just done like 100 times 64, points with this. Have we still got that pin that you had with all the like?
Yeah, I
gaffer taped around.
I make an ergonomic pin for the testing.
Yeah.
But we have to test every single input and output to make sure that all the resistors are working correctly. So every input to every output is tested by me. Every single one's been tested by me. But that's how we know it's good. How we know it's good, and I didn't hear any of them pop. If I did, I fixed it.
Again, I think the only case of pops we've heard is, say, if it's really low frequency.
Yeah.
And you're
interrupting it.
Yeah, terminating a waveform just on a massive peak or a massive trough, you're going to get a pop because it's going back to zero very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Heimbach, big fan, has a Gilmetti. They want to adapting to Jack and the Erica Sims digital matrix on the synth tracks. Loves matrices. Yeah, it's just that different way of working. That's it for me. That it's such a simple. I had a couple of people ask similar questions as you said, as to put the video up. They maybe don't have use cases that I put across in the video, or they maybe just have modular but they're interested, and it's like, well, how would I use it? And maybe they list a little bit of gear, and it kind of is like, well, kind of whatever you want. And as well in the video, a lot of what I'm doing I kept simple for the sake of not having 8 in and out going all the time. You could have half of it doing clock distribution, keeping all your sequencers running on divisions that you want them, and the other half doing audio because they don't interfere. So you could do most of the patches I did, or at least a couple of them at the same time. I think that was one of the less obvious, but again, in our little false start we had earlier, which is why we're a bit late, I mentioned for routing rhythms around, not needing to think, I need an OR combiner, or I need a mixer that's good for gates, or just patching a few rhythms into the MTX8 and then just pinning them into various drum modules or sound modules, and kind of thinking to myself, I wish the rim shot was mirroring the open hat. So all right, it is. I'll just drop a pin in. No thinking, just did it. And didn't have to think of that, I need an OR switch, or I need some way of merging these signals. It just worked. And again, I'm sure it led to bits of kind of stacking and layering in the rhythm stuff that I wouldn't have otherwise done. I don't know, not that it's anything super special, I'm not claiming it is, but I don't think I've mirrored an open hi-hat with a rim shot before. And maybe not the most compelling use, but just one of those things that like it worked in that context and I wouldn't have done it. And that's where the kind of fun comes in for me, definitely.
You've just opened a whole new genre of electronic music up there. Just open hi-hats and rim shots all the time.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I'm going to nick that. Sorry.
Yeah, do it. Do it. But yeah, modulation as well. With it, mixing LFOs was really fun. With modulation, when it's parity mixing, even level mixing, is that the way that like an adder module would work. That the more ins there is, if there's 4 ins, they've all got like 25% gain kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so hang on. Are you thinking?
If I put,
thinking like average weighting?
I might be doing. So maybe that's a poor question. If I put 4 LFOs in, let's say -5 to +5, and I mix them all to one output, what's my output? Is it still +5 to -5, and they're all adjusted according, or is there? It's still there's gonna be some level boost.
They'll be instantaneously added.
Yeah. So if you had them all in phase, so all the peaks were at
every
+5 at the same time. Then you're going to get +20 volts.
Okay.
At the output of all the MTX8s and the active MTX9. If you go for the passive MTX9, you get average weighting. So say if you took 3 sources to the same destination, the level of each of those sources would be at a third of what it was originally at the input.
So it's more like kind of precision adder territory of just there is no change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because that leads something.
It's really handy if you've got like a 1 volt per octave sequence going to your oscillator, and then you bring a keyboard in on another input to transpose it. I mean, that's half of my live rig is doing that with the MTX9 active. Like it's just a little keyboard module, Digitact, doing MIDI sequences into the MTX9 and just using it as an adder, as well as being able to send gate signals to different places. So yeah,
that's one thing I didn't do. That's the one thing. Well, I'm sure there's lots of other examples, of course.
But, no worries at all.
I was like, as you were saying it, then I was like, why didn't I thought per octave into it? It's a perfect when people. It's come up recently in my little Patreon Discord about transposing sequences, and messaging someone about that. And I was like, just having a little keyboard with a CV out, and then all the other modular sequences and an adder, but just being able to go over and just route it on C, and then as I would thinking as an instrument player, a guitarist or something, just take it up a tone, or jump up a fifth to G, or up or down an octave, or it's just so handy. But I could be doing that on a couple of ins, and then doing some feedback, and then doing some audio stuff, and making sure the right clock goes somewhere else. GNU Ninja telling Heimbach he could do one of these patch matrices for his wall of test equipment. Be interesting. That needs to be like 16mm banana though. It doesn't quite.
I was going to say you need a big
chunk.
Yeah. You want like kettle or power con cables or something like speak on patching.
Maybe we need like I'm thinking like scaffolding bars. I just do it with those just
over the shoulder.
Yeah. That's proper industrial then. Come on, we need to do the industrial version.
It did come up. Is there a theoretical? I mean, it gets silly, but we were joking around, and Alex at Signal Sounds as well in a group chat about, could you do a 19-inch rack version?
I mean, I did genuine. Again, I think this was in the false start, was it? Maybe it wasn't. But talking to the university about the Moog Sound Lab, we did a whole refit of that room where it lives, and we were trying to figure out how to just route signals around. And I did say, why don't we just, if I built a matrix, it would work, it would do the job, it would be a lot of stuff, but it would be a very, very interesting experience to just have a load of audio inputs and a load of audio outputs, and you can just send anything anywhere at the drop of a pin.
Yeah.
And it just never went anywhere. But it's.
I think the main thing there would be like, is a 19-inch rack unit really an ergonomic place for it to be? I think rack gear is just so unergonomic and awful. I really hate it. Like, no, it is like you don't want to be down there on the floor fishing around with a pin matrix. And people have those desks where it brings it up onto your computer screen or whatever. But like, it is ultimately just terrible. So I think you need to try and find some sort of like shape for it to be where it could be unobtrusive, but also like within reach and somewhere nice.
I just keep dreaming of those like sloped racks that Kraftwerk had in Kling Klang though in like the 80s, where it's it's like you stand at them and they're perfect, like elbow height.
Yeah,
I mean,
like a sort of like cockpit of a train almost. Yeah.
Oh man,
standing train driver.
Love it.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Just
I want to drop this into. Oh yeah, perfect. Da 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 da.
There also that limit comes in of not knowing what's going where. Once there's a huge sea of pins and you're in the middle of that, you lose.
Then that's great. That's fantastic. Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Lost in an ocean of 3D patching.
Yeah.
I think you might want to have like lots of matrices that you can link together. Maybe.
Several would be
have
more
like
useful.
3 or 4. Yeah.
And that's definitely the way. Thinking of this and normal patch bays in a rack system, that's definitely the way I've been going, thinking of this new studio space of kind of little mini bays feeding a central bay that is where my interface lives and where I record. Definitely. Thinking of industrial, you make the gristalizer stuff, that's pretty industrial. Yep, well said.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. But one of the questions we had earlier that we've spoke about all desktop stuff, and I'd love to see preamps and studio gear and all sorts of stuff. What's happening Eurorack side of future sound systems? Anything you can mention at the minute?
There are things in the works with people we've worked with in the past. And I mean that is spoilers all around. We're always talking to those guys and very excited about things that are kicking off in that arena. In our own stuff, I mean, we've got a few ideas, but we're not really sure where to put them, because this is a thing now that we've made something in a box. It's this entire thing now of like, well, do we put it in a box or do we make it a module, or do we do both? And do a kind of like no coast with it and make it easy for people to just take the thing out of the case and put it in to their rack. And that might well be the way forward for us. I don't know. I mean, we need to really sit and just decide about it. I mean, we're still just kind of in production mode really with the MTX8. But probably, closer into the winter. I mean, I would really like to see us do another kit through Thonk before the year's up, because then it would be 2018 was Brunswick, 2019 was Portland, 2020 is that will link Brunswick and Portland together in a nice way somehow. And we've got a few ideas as to what that might be. We should probably talk to Steve at some point about this.
Yeah, Steve, give us a call.
Yeah, though I'm sure he's absolutely just...
Sounds like he's really busy, though.
Rushed off his feet. I mean, absolutely. God bless the Thonk team, because they've kept us running. I've got all goosebumps. Like real, proud of that team, because they've kept certainly us on our feet throughout last few months. I'm sure they've kept other brands going.
They supply lots of people with all of the unusual, modular parts that they need. Like we definitely, would not have nearly as easy a time if it wasn't for Thonk. So real big love out to them, because they, and the service is just incredible. I mean, they've been apologetic throughout this entire thing, and even just orders that I've placed as a customer, outside of doing anything business related, they've said, it's going to be 2 weeks before this arrives, and it's like 3 days. There's really no delay there, and I don't think I'm receiving any preferential treatment. I don't think they run in that way at all. I think they just simply go through the orders, which is the right way to do it. I can't shower them with enough praise. They're fantastic. So if anyone from Thonk is watching, thank you. Because you've kept us on our feet.
Well, for years now. Just how good they all are. We need to do something with Brunswick. Thinking of something we'd spoke about. You and I and Steve at Thonk. There's some really nice side issues with that, getting the tissues out. A little bit of a tear. A little bit of a tear production star. Thonk orders taking about 6 days. I mean, with how they have to work and how everybody's had to work through the pandemic, it's great. just to speak to something you did say, and I probably speak for a lot of people in the chat and that will watch this later, I'd love a kind of here's a flavour of Future Sound Systems box, Mother 32-esque, No Coast-esque, just to kind of here's who we are at a price point that's maybe wider available to people. You don't need to go into any further at that.
No,
but
that's.
I think your DIY
that's something
does that as well. Like, you know, Brunswick.
Yeah.
I put Brunswick in this video and filthed it up a little bit in the preamp in the MTX8, but it's already pretty dirty.
Yeah.
You know, there's no holding back of we'll make a nice little synth box. No, it's
funny because the more we try and do stuff that's nice,
the
more we end up doing.
We'll do this little cute little simple thing.
This will be really nice. It's tearing my face off. And funnily enough, even with the MTX8, we've had people go like, Future Sound Systems, of course they had to put like a really dirty preamp on it. And it's like, no, we just wanted something with a bit of like drive on it for guitarists. So I think it's been quite funny to see that like the progression of us trying to, you know, we're both maturing, we're both getting older, we're trying to mellow in our.
I have just had a multi-day saga with my ear, not being able to hear any top
end.
So.
No, that's why it's getting harsher, because we're actually being able to hear.
We're just
less
deaf
and less.
now.
Yeah.
It's not.
Like, make it louder.
It's not a really filthy preamp though, because it is very. You know, I think I played through like, here's a clean guitar, here it is through the pre, here it is with the clipping turned on, and as you'd expect of any kind of mid-focused overdrive-ish thing, tube screamer-ish as you say, it's not the heaviest distortion. It's not going to give you, you know, gated, distorted new metal riffs out of a guitar, and it's got that low-end roll-off that you would expect from a tube screamer. It's not the most distorted heavy thing with a clean input. I mean, you put Brunswick in and it's filth, because it barely needs any teasing to be any dirtier than it is. It's a nice tight kind of crunch on the guitar, I found. And it's important for me with that to put that into an amp and set that in context. For if I just run synths through it, it's just going to seem really filthy on its own.
Yeah.
Which is great, but I was just like, it's like a mild overdrive on a guitar into an amp, which would be the use case for that kind of thing. Reminds me of a tube screamer / booster. Steven in the chat. Yeah, exactly. But you know, drums and synths that have already got certainly a lot more level. You're going to throw modular in, it's going to react quite differently than a guitar straight in. Is the main thing.
Yeah,
that's something I didn't do. Does it clean up synth wise if you just lower the level quite a lot on the way in? Because I just had fun wildly throwing modular in. Just I didn't think about it. The whole thing had took whenever I threw it so well. I didn't, as I usually would with say a pedal, think I'll properly interface. I'll drop modular level down and then I'll come back up as I go back in. So I just plug it in. It just took it.
It's quite clean, but it's obviously rolled off. So turning the clipping off does not bypass the circuit. It just takes the clipping elements out of the circuit. So the roll off is still there. So it can sound a bit thin. I mean, we've plugged mics into it, and I think that it's not going to be like the best mic input in the world, but for like, you know, scratch or for even like distorted characterful vocals, it's still like it's good. I think you'd probably roll it off anyway, to be perfectly honest. I think in most situations, but I mean, it's a bit aggressive for like all uses, but it's certainly good for most.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to put your flautist through it unless you're doing something.
Actually,
really...
you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, maybe.
Double bass. No, double bass is forbidden. Any oboes?
It's
nothing woody.
Nothing woody. Yeah, get that wood away from here. I don't know. I mean, again, it's all up to choice, isn't it? I think depends what you want to do with it. If you want to do the whole like, you know, I just want to stick it through something analog, then it's probably going to be the best case of that.
Yeah.
Where it's just, I mean, the circuitry, it goes through a transistor driver, through an op amp, through a transistor driver. So you've got plenty of cases for weird non-linearity there if you start cranking it enough. So, yeah, you know, it is what it is. Praise be to James.
Praise be to James Brown.
Praise be to James Brown.
Sorry, we are looking at comments here.
Sorry. Yeah, I kind of slowly getting distracted by what people are saying.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine. That's why we're here and doing this live, and why I made the demo separately. And someone asked earlier, will we demo it in this stream? It's like, no, I can do that. I could do that in nice quality that I'm happy with outside of a stream. So we just hang out. Generally, for people watching live, questions open for anything related future sound systems. Doesn't just have to be MTX8. We're all here just ultimately for the live chat and to hang out and just kind of chat away with what people want. Production Sar asked how the recombination engine's doing. Really liking the demos of it.
Good. I think. I mean, it's it's kind of a weird thing because I took one off the shelf the other day, and we're not particularly like, going crazy on the serial numbers, but it's selling and people are buying it. So
it's quite an expensive module, and I think given its cost, it's selling pretty well.
I think it's selling pretty well. I mean, again, we spoke to our distributor and they kind of said, well, this is how we usually go on, triple VCOs, and I think we've done pretty well, like compared to other triple VCOs on the market. So yeah, I presume good.
That happens, not just triple VCOs. It's like anything so esoteric or larger HP or larger costs. Kind of like once you get, not that it's just not as mass market once you go kind of above about, I don't know, maybe £500 or something like that. It's kind of, you're into a specialist thing. It's not going to do as well as a £150 filter for anyone. Certain things that kind of churn out and are fairly reliable kind of sales almost, I guess. That's not how you run it. And the recombination engine is a really interesting, unique oscillator. Just again with the demo video, I'll grab the link in a minute. Just a ton of ways to use the thing.
I'm just glad that anyone actually picked it up and said this is interesting. I mean, it's always. I like to think that everything we do is slightly strange, and I always think it's a blessing that anyone actually kind of tries it out, because I mean, we get the odd customer who buys the like Spectral Devastator and they say, well, this isn't a filter. It's like, well, it's not. I mean, it's not a traditional filter in any case. I mean, it will do low passing and high passing, but really all the fun is there when you start overdriving it, when you start cranking the resonance up, when you get all the weird kind of like subharmonic stuff going on.
That's why it's not called the Future Sound Systems filter. The
Future Sound Systems Moog ladder filter 2020 greatest hits,
you're not trying to churn things
remaster,
out.
Remaster 2030. Yeah,
you're just carving your own way. That's funny with the spec dev filter. It's kind of like one of the must-haves as I got into modular, and I don't mean to say like I've been there from the start. This was 8 years ago, maybe, and there's certainly plenty of it then. Obviously not what it is now, but you kind of had to have a plague bearer was the thing, and that's labelled. As a filter, and it's like. Spec dev is more filter than a plague bearer, but both are very interesting colouring, saturating things. And that's not hidden anywhere. I think it's you've done well if you've bought that and you were expecting, I don't know, some clean Roland-esque filtering. You've done well to avoid everything that tells you it's not.
We do. It does end up in the hands of a few people who do think that and do expect that. And again, I mean, our utmost apologies if that does happen. We will eventually bring out a filter that is relatively normal, but we
won't.
We will. It will happen. It will happen. It will happen. No, it's on the cards. It's happening. But
we can usually explain to people what it is, though. In most cases, I don't think it's ever been like a bad situation.
But I think now, and again, it's kind of like the case with the Oscar 2. I think where my interest is in being able to offer something where it can do normal, whatever. Here's a multi-mode filter where you've got low pass, band pass, high pass. You can do that, but you've also got this extra bit of stuff in the core of it, where you can turn this knob and suddenly all of that is just completely thrown out of the window, and you're in this other realm of it being something completely different.
Yeah.
I like to think that that's kind of what you can do with the OSC2. You can kind of just about make it sound like a DX7 if you've got a few envelopes and you start doing weird FM stuff with it. That still, I don't understand how it does that. I don't understand how the FM's working with that. It's whenever I patch it up, I'm just like, this is really weird because this sounds totally digital, but it's all analog. And I really want to design more stuff that does that to me, even from just a selfish point of view. Just going like, whoa, whoa, every time I play with it.
Yeah,
because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. We've had again production site asking about Portland. I will pull the image up on screen. This they say they found it on modular grid. Is it discontinued? Maybe not seen it as a module before. This is a desktop device that you can use as is on screen, just open circuit. And when you had Brunswick, which is this one, it might have been I can't remember what the event was, but you were licking your fingers and touching pots and shorting bits out and kind of live finger saliva circuit bending the thing.
Yeah, very much not COVID friendly.
No. But you can imagine you could do that with Portland as well. But you make a case again, PCB type case, composite, also dry wipeable, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, sure.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All dry wipeable.
That's got to be our,
it is white.
Yeah, it is white. That's got to be our thing now.
Everything is dry
Everything
wipeable.
is dry wipeable. Quick. Let's start doing white panels.
So this is a multi-voice drum machine, but the way you put this to me when it came out was that it's multiple simple voices, or if you want like a more complex snare with the kind of two bits of body, kind of sine tone and noise, you can kind of couple them all together and patch. So it's an openly patchable drum module. Is there any other way that you'd kind of explain that? It's 20 resonators, is it? Typical classic kind of analog drum, ping it and get a
pretty much
kind of sound.
We kind of approached it as like, well, we want like a percussion. I think that's the way that we describe it. It's like a percussion sandbox. So you have all of these elements that you can play with. You have like a kind of like non-linear twin T for the kick drum. You have a couple of straightforward twin Ts for tonal elements. You have noise going through a VCA. You have a couple of decay envelopes. You have a secondary VCA. You can do you've got like a hi-hat machine there. Because of the hi-hat machine, you've got like the metal generator, which is like all the square waves, running at different frequencies being exclusive ored together through a high pass. It's all of those kind of classic like Roland TR, Korg KR ideas.
Yeah, a bit more character though.
Out.
A bit more of a
and a bit more.
It's not an 808. It's not a 606. It's not a clone of anything. It's just based on those vintage ideas of how you make a circuit, make a drum sound.
Listening to too much Severed Heads, and I think most people have got it, and we've kind of said, here's an example patch. This is how we would go about making a kick and a snare and a hi-hat out of this. But you could patch it up in weird and wonderful ways. There's two VCAs in there. Yeah, they're a bit scratchy, they're a bit weird, but they work. There's a couple of decay envelopes in there. You could use it alongside your synth just as a couple of VCAs if you wanted to. You could use the twin Ts as filters. That's really interesting, is just running waveforms from like a VCO into the trigger input of the twin Ts and just manually tweaking the twin T frequency as a filter. There's not much. The one thing that everyone is kind of always questions us about the Portland is like, there's not that much voltage control on there, and really simply because if we added voltage control, it would be this massive thing, and
not DIYable.
Not really DIYable, but who knows what might come in the future? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So there's various bits and pieces that we can take and change. But to also answer questions about that being Eurorackable, the Portland is very easily Eurorackable The Brunswick is not, and that was a conscious decision.
There's the
honestly.
There's the Eurorack version. It's the same thing behind the hood, though, isn't it? It's the case of you can Euro panel it, you can leave it open, you can put it in a box, and as well, if I remember right, there's a little backpack that will kind of piggyback on power.
Yeah, the battery simulator.
2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's production side asking, is it available to buy with a Euro panel ready to go?
Portland is.
Yeah, we can.
But it's a kit, obviously. It's a kit.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to pay through the nose, we can do it, but we really would rather not. There are plenty of other people who will build it for you.
Yeah.
You should please ask any of them to do it. It takes us quite a long time to do it, and we don't really want to do it. It's also so honestly, because it does. It's one of those things that it takes a long time to build, and our time would be better spent designing the next.
It was supposed to be a kit for people to learn,
yeah.
And so whilst you can buy it from us, that was not the intention of it. So.
I mean, think of it this way: for the money that you've spent paying us to build you a Portland, you could buy the Brunswick in a case, the Portland in a case, and probably actually a small sequencer, and have an acid set up. Ready to go. You've just got to build it. You've just got to build it. Yeah. But they're easy enough to build because they've been designed with the ease of build in mind.
Yeah. There's just
support Thonk.
Yeah.
Support Thonk. Yeah.
Buy from Thonk.
But there's it's just not a quick. It's not a quick build. It's not just a VCA. You can see in the image there's a lot to it, and there are good builders around. Production Sar is in my Patreon Discord, and thanks for the support and doing that. I think I just mentioned in one of the channels there that between everyone in that Discord, I'm sure there can be a great resource of builders, people that will build stuff in whatever country you're in.
I mean, if not, we're more than happy to point you to people as well. We know people through our social media and stuff who are very good and very trustworthy builders. So yeah, it is
totally possible to build it yourself as well.
Yeah,
you should, because the Thonk build guide is really amazing.
Yeah,
we've overseen people. We've had workshop days. We've done it with people before, and it's really doable. So
yeah. Don't let the DIY thing put you off. Embrace it.
Yeah,
it will only pay you back in dividends, really. And especially that's the thing. The example that I gave earlier, where you could buy both Brunswick and Portland together. Brunswick is such an easy thing to build.
Yeah.
If you've never soldered before, you can buy that, maybe a little quick kit, solder some LEDs to a circuit board. Just use that to practice your soldering, and then jump into Brunswick, and you'll be fine. Yeah, you will be okay, and you'll have a fully working synth at the end of it. So I can't stress that enough. They are DIY projects.
Someone was asking about is it CE?
Yeah.
And is it lead free? It is lead free.
It's lead free.
Everything we make is lead free, unless it's got an opto in it, in which case it's lead free. It is lead free.
It's still within regulation.
It's still lead free.
Lead free. Yeah.
CE is a bit of a strange one. It's not CE, but CE is kind of meaningless anyway, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. It's certainly not China export.
Yeah.
Which CE seemingly means more and more nowadays.
Yeah. CE is a bit of a weird one because it's not people just have to say it's CE and then it's CE, so it doesn't really have any meaning. But I mean, it's lead free and we certify it. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, if it's any consolation, we test all of our products before they go in a box.
Yeah.
In the sad few cases that we've had where things have turned up and they haven't worked, it's been that something dodgy's happened in transit.
Yeah.
Everything works when it leaves here, so. Yeah.
Max Modular would recommend anyone into Euro to at least learn some DIY soldering skills. It really opens up some cool modules. Yeah.
100%.
Satisfying 100%. As well when you use something you've made.
100%.
Yeah, it's a nice drink in an evening if you've an evening free. I find I'm not particularly good at it, and I don't get as much time to do as much of it as I would like. More so with doing the video work of it all day as well, and life and everything else. But yeah, it's always a nice thing, and there certainly is that satisfaction. It's like, I don't know, caveman and fire for the first time, isn't it? It really is a kind of like arms above the air, this works, first time you do it. Brunswick was made, wasn't it, to be specifically that, for a workshop, right?
Yeah. So the first instance of that was with Beef, who we should give a shout out to. Their slip of the tongue. Bristol Experimental Expanded Film, who I'm not entirely sure what they're up to at the moment because obviously coronavirus, but they're essentially a collective of experimental film artists and enthusiasts who they often run workshops in Bristol. Again, I'm not entirely sure what the deal is at the moment, but Kathy from Beef, Kathy Hind, she's a very, very amazing artist and composer in her own right. She invited us to give a kind of a synth DIY workshop and really didn't want to present something that was a noise box masquerading as a synth. I wanted to kind of like say, well, yeah, let's do something with a VCO and a VCF and a VCA and an envelope, and you can hook a sequencer up to it and it is an actual synth. Yeah, okay, it's going to be pretty weird, and not particularly precise or well behaved, but then that should be the beauty of it as well at the same time, and that's really where Brunswick came from. So yeah.
Couple of bits in the chat as we kind of look to round out, maybe a bit of a final kind of last call at the bar for questions. Gerald saying he built a blank panel the other day, it wasn't harsh. Effects Music said that Brunswick was their first DIY project, was quite easy, and that you actually fixed the small mistake he made at Superbooth. That's really cool.
I can't remember that.
It must have been that quick and easy.
No,
did
we sold it? Did you have soldering line?
Yeah, we did.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I know. I remember something like that. I think.
Did you see to it?
I don't remember.
It must have been a small little quick fix for you to not.
Yeah.
for it to not have been a big pain or a chore or anything. I'll answer quickly for you because you did a big wink, hint earlier. But Edna's Disco Machine, any more Daniel Miller modules coming? The wording that Finlay gave was that Euro stuff, ideas in the works, and things coming from those that they've collaborated with before. Needn't say no more at this stage. Portland.
I won't say any more on that, but on that front, really, we're waiting for coronavirus to
sort of go airborne.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we need to do with people in person, and don't really feel particularly comfortable doing that at the moment. And I'm not even sure if they're in the same country at the moment either.
It's far. I mean, not to go on a completely unrelated tangent to you two, but like with Oct with Jason at Instruo, once we'd got done as much as we could, it was just a case of going up to Glasgow and just plonking one in where we could just swap capacitor values out to fine tune the rate of each LFO, and it just in person meant we could just do it in a day. Play around, patch a bit. Third output is just a bit too fast. All right, okay, give it back. Popping something else on, and it just even little things like that. That would have been, if that was sending a module back and forth each time.
Exactly.
Or giving me, I'm not in a position to do that. I couldn't give the exact values that I wanted or was equipped to do it. And just ideas. I mean, I'm not revealing anything here, so hopefully no one watching takes it because there's genuinely nothing in the works. But we've shared module ideas before. It's not a surprise that those that you've worked with and had great successful modules with, of course you're going to discuss things. It's exciting.
Yeah,
exciting though.
They're always full of ideas as well. I mean, it's you have people of that caliber, that experience, and that knowledge, and of course it's just like, well, this is missing. Please, can you do this? And it's like, I mean, there are some ideas that we've just balked at and gone, we can't
do them now.
It's like we wish we could, and there are ways that we know that we can, but with our experience and our knowledge, we would have to talk to other people who are willing. But again, it's just a case of everyone being in the same room and being able to actually do something. But yeah, again, it's a case of like as you were saying about the stuff that you've done with Jason. There are is a module in the works at the moment that we do actually have a working version of, but it's going to change quite dramatically, where we do actually need to go over and take measurements of a very specific synth to try and figure out what the signal should be doing where. Because I mean, at the moment we're just stabbing around in the dark. Like, even if we just got any old version of that synth in, it's more than likely that due to component tolerance, it's going to be way off. In comparison with that synth as it stands in that studio. Even on that power, it all everything has an effect with that older kit.
But even something simple like, thinking of, we spoke about you one day doing a clean filter, and Jamie quite quick said, no, you're not. But, just like an input level on a filter, just to be able to be there together and just go, it's clipping too much, or just, I want it just to push in and just burn on the way in a little bit, or it needs backing off, or just all those things that can be done very quickly, that just, it needs to be there. And there's still a lot of social distancing in place and COVID needing to do one, but is what it is. That's interesting though. I'm excited to know that they're coming. Really excited. I'm going to put a link in the chat for the Gristleizer demo, as the Gristleizer stuff came up earlier with you and Roy, which was the year that Chris Carter came and played at Leeds. You brought the new Gristleizer modules, and you and Roy Gwynn, that was responsible for the original bit of kit that Chris had built up for the Gristleizer. That's a really good video for people to watch. A question about pricing on Portland. There seems to be some confusion. It's more money on your website than on Fonk. Is that just a case of you had them assembled at one point and now done, or what's that?
If you buy it from our website, we will build it. But we really would rather you did not do that
and bought your own. Built your own.
We would rather that you.
So that's the price difference, is because it's built from us.
Okay. You need to your anti-business campaign of please don't. You need to go remove the buy button if you don't want to.
I mean, again, it's kind of there have been a couple of moments where we've had orders from it and we've had nothing else to do. So it's kind of like a welcome, like, all right, okay, maybe we'll spend an afternoon doing that. But for the most part, we'd rather you bought the kit and just built the kit.
That is the intended,
Yeah. If it's not too expensive to buy it from us directly, then it really should be tell us and we'll put the price up.
Yeah.
So
that genuinely,
we don't want to
it's
build
designed
them.
to be priced that you would not want to get that for that much money and build it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, for me, time-wise, I'm completely with production side in the live chat of going, I'd rather just pay the £300 and just have it ready to go.
Yeah, sure.
You may have an order going in, I guess, for that one. Gerald, change the buy button to do not click.
It might just take a while. I mean, if you are just about to order one, it might take a little while, just because
definitely take a while.
We're still kind of swimming through MTX8 orders at the moment. We are getting them out, but I think we've genuinely been quite surprised as to how well it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, a massive thank you to everyone who supported us. I mean, even outside of this, over the years that we've been going, but especially over the last 6 months, because I think everyone had the case of not really knowing what was going to happen, when lockdown kicked off. But we've been really lucky to be in the situation that we're in, and both the MTX8 and the OSC2 have gone down really well. So thank you very much to everyone who's supported us.
It was just a continuation of you doing your thing and not trying to fill that would sell really well. Just kind of like just placing things in deliberately. It's the pair of you doing what you do and bringing that stuff to life, and that's always what's interesting. And then I think on that it's kind of like when you said about 500 series and 19-inch and stuff. I think we'd be very interested in sort of entering the world of studio gear. We will do that, in fact. But I think that both of us have got very strong opinions about the format of all that gear and the way in which it's presented, and that we would not follow those norms,
conventions,
for sure.
We're almost certain to send a lot of people going, what?
Yeah, I think because companies love 19-inch stuff and they love 500 series stuff because you can put a very small amount of circuitry in a box, and you can attach an extremely large price tag to it.
Yeah.
And people, they buy it based on, this is like, I'm talking about the old world studio gear companies, and I don't think you're really getting your money's worth in any way with a lot of that stuff.
Many people may have seen 19-inch rack units that has a Eurorack size circuit board, a 10 HP module's worth of something that just wires out to some pots on the front and is just in a big metal box that's cost way too much.
Yeah. I'm not going to name names, but I've seen some instances where I mean, I would say the MTX8 is far better engineered and far more. Things where like different input channels clip at different amplitudes, and the left and right outputs are not balanced in terms of general output and clipping. And these are from some of the most well-renowned brands within studio equipment. You email them and you say, what the hell's going on, this unit's broken. They're like, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah, like even setting aside that sort of like just poor quality control that you get at that size, I think just in terms of the way people make music these days and what people actually need to make their processes more like interesting and get to their creative goals more quickly, buying expensive rack gear is not going to do that. And us putting something which might sell well in that form is not going to fulfill us in any way. So I think if we were to enter that world, we would enter it in quite a different way.
Very oblique.
I don't know if we'd ever make a 500 series module unless it was really, really like, wow, that is definitely the format that thing needs to be in.
Yeah, we did consider it with the Gristallizer stuff, and it's just it just gets to a case where it's like, but is there CV in on 500 series stuff?
No,
not really.
DBX 900 series.
Yeah, DBX 900 series. I mean, it does. Go on the website, it exists, but it's it's very much. You're so, by the time that you're looking at the 500 series stuff, you're already kind of like, okay, well, here's a 3U rack format. Well, then, I mean, just behind the laptop here, right in front of me, we've got like the tip top, 3U kit. Just get one of those. Like for the cost of it, if you're already in a studio and buying 500 series gear, I mean, I'm kind of in that situation at the moment because I'm looking at stuff where, for the studio setup that I've got enough synths. I don't want to build any more synths. I don't want to really buy any more synths unless there's something really incredibly special. So what do I do next? Oh, outboard. Okay, well then what's on, the market for me to be able to, build? And it's like, well, 500 series stuff is easy to build. And then you start really kind of asking the question, well, why do I don't need
and what
this.
Is it that you actually get?
Yeah, what is this going to give me? Oh, it's going to give me a compressor with knobs on. Why do I need that? I mean, I could build it in Eurorack and it would be cheaper for me because I don't have to put anything around in a chassis or anything like that. I mean, so there's just so many things with all of that stuff. And again, this is going to end up being a tirade against any outboard manufacturer, and I don't mean it to be that way, but there are so many things set up to just be excuses for bad design, at least in my opinion. And there are so many cases where you look at what people do and you just think, why have you done this? This is just either set up for, manufacture by the smallest cost price when you're putting a massive 4-figure, even 5-figure price tag on some of these things that do the work of 10-20 pounds worth of electronics. You just think, what are you doing? This doesn't add to anyone's creative energy.
It's just that it doesn't come in the right. It's like it's just not in the right form for people, is it? And I think the price tag is what makes people think that it's worthwhile, and really it's not. So I think we'd like to. I mean, we've got some serious ideas for taking studio tools and presenting them with controls that make sense for music rather than takt times and decay times and frequency numbers, whatever. People already use studio equipment in a sort of musical way, and they try and whether it's making a compressor time well with the rhythm of your track or whatever, that sort of thing. Why is that not just already in a musical. Those controls can just be in a musical format already.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, and it doesn't have to be $5,000.
Yeah.
Just to kind of hype up,
and on the floor.
Yeah.
Just to type up your, but I mean, you've both worked in and kept gear running in real world and some serious studios and some seriously drill worthy bits of kit that you've both worked on and kept going for some big name clients in the past. And you did, I think it was a one-off custom order, didn't you make a 500 series thing once for someone, like a serious?
That was DVX900. That was, yeah. Finlay basically I found a DVX900 series, which is a much better format than 500 series.
Yeah.
And I found a bunch of old units in the back of Real World that had no modules in, and so Finlay made some Spectral Devastators to go in to the DVX900 series rack.
Yeah.
Because they actually are designed like it's not just audio inputs and outputs. It's got like
control.
There's separate pins on the edge connector for CV and all that stuff. So you could have, it's much better than 500 series. In terms of like a more overarching view of studio gear. So yeah, that was that.
It's and I don't know if is Patrick watching this? Do we know?
Maybe
our friend Patrick. I kind of delivered the thing to Jamie and was like, it's really hot. Like it's just the signal level is really hot. Just be really careful when you use it. I mean, anyone who's used a Spectral Devastator knows what it's capable of. And you passed it on to Patrick and said like, just be really careful with it. Like, you know,
Finn he wanted to quickly see what it was like.
Yeah.
Whilst he was doing something else, so he just plugged headphones into the output, and then turned up one of the resonance controls and just like blasted the headphones off his head, got it practically.
Yeah.
And then he was scared of it and
never touched it again. So yeah, if anyone does happen to stumble into Real World anytime soon, just ask if they've got the DVX900 Spectral Devastators, because they're the only ones in existence.
Loudest ones in the world.
Yeah, and the loudest ones in the world actually. Yeah, fully balanced. So plus 6 dB on those puppies.
I will put I'll put the Real World Studio link in the chat for anyone that's maybe not heard of it.
Yeah, sure.
Question about the MTX8 though, maybe final question. Definitely final call for questions for anyone. Gerald asking, can he use TS or TRS on the MTX8 if he wants to run, say, his 500 series module into that? Should he use TRS to TRS, or does he need to bring it down to TS cables? You can run any in, can't you? But it's not balanced out.
Yes, you can use whatever you like to plug into it. If you the jack on the input will ground the ring, so it'll become unbalanced as it enters the MTX8. So you can use either kind of cable. It'll work. You won't get any funny buzz, but then it will be unbalanced in the MTX8 and unbalanced output. And it's actually we didn't know actually going into this that there are some pedals that use both, like they use 3-pole jacks to carry control signal on the ring, which is a shame because obviously it's not compatible with that unless you could use a Y cable before you plug it into the MTX8. But we might, if we can work out a way of presenting it nicely on the Matrix, we might in a future version preserve the R on a couple of jacks so that you can plug those in without having to use a splitter cable. But that's something I didn't know about until after I designed it.
We've had a couple of friends who like work in kind of, even live audio, who have said if this was balanced, this would be killer, even just from a passive point of view. And it's just like, can we find, multi-pronged?
The Matrix doesn't really work. No. We can't do the Matrix in the form that it's in now, balanced. I would say that balanced isn't all that. Personally, I think there's a lot of like fuss over balancing in studios. Balancing obviously very important in a microphone cable. I would say almost unanimously not at all important at line level, or like out of a synth.
Yeah, and in small runs and stuff, it's not a huge. It's not a huge cable.
It matters for a microphone.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a problem with a line level signal getting like any noticeable noise from being unbalanced. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, again, what's the cost of one of those rack, 8-channel DI things? if people are desperate to get it. I mean, I to be fair, like we having just talked about that, I've just set up part of the studio that is now actually 8 channels of DIs to run a load of unbalanced lines into balanced connections, because I was having noise problems, and I think that's because of the room I'm in. I think it's surrounded by terrible stuff. I don't think the ground there is very good.
It's probably ground-induced noise rather than not balanced.
I've certainly had me and a friend exactly the same bit of kit, then bringing it here, plugging it in. Oh, my noise is gone. Can I try your power supply? And then literally, they were the power supplies that came with the things, but literally swap them over. It's like, all right, well, I'll now drive to your house and bring mine, and now they're both noisy. And it was just a case of old. Once we moved in here 6 years ago, we had it rewired, and I know the electric's good in the house.
But balancing protect you against induced noise in the lines, and those kinds of problems that you're talking about are not caused by induced noise. They're caused by like different ground potentials.
Yeah.
So probably the fact that you're buffering things that's causing it to go away, rather than the fact that it's balanced that's causing it to go away, I would say. Or
yeah. Great. Well, whatever does come next in the order of cool stuff to come, I really look forward to checking it out and doing another stream as we did with the recombination engine.
Yeah.
I've linked that in the chat. If anybody has any questions, there's a 20-second-ish delay on the stream. We'll stay here for a minute or two for any final questions. But if you're watching back afterwards, leave a comment, and if I can't answer, you can ask Future Sound Systems wherever you would like to find them online.
Our email is the only thing that is not working is our Facebook. That I got kicked off Facebook for reasons unknown. I still don't really understand. And we've lost all control over the Future Sound Systems page.
It's adrift, on
Facebook. So the only thing we can do is post to that Facebook page from Instagram. So
but you can email us, or contact us through Instagram.
Yeah. So if you're sat there waiting for a reply on Facebook,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. We can't see the messages.
If anyone works at Facebook, we'd like to talk to.
Yeah, we'd really like to talk to you about how the hell we can get access to our own business page again, because that would be very useful for us. Thank you very much.
Also, not really.
But... well, I don't know, but it's just email us. Good old email works. Even just send us a letter. I think our address is online.
Yeah,
you can find us.
Well, it's just out of reach. But the Brunswick will probably be the next thing we do together. Thinking of funk, ideas for stuff going around. We'll probably do some nice Brunswick patching. Will probably be the next thing. But really look forward to it. And I'll maybe it came up as a point from Gerald in the live chat earlier that maybe the pitch patching and the volt per octave would be a nice little Patreon only video. Maybe I'll make a follow-up for Patreon supporters for that one. And just to say thank you to those that have thrown in donations to the super chat. Effects Music, who you fixed a little mistake at Super Booth with their soldering. We have to share a beer or coffee when social distancing is over, and Production Sar. I think he's thrown a donation in purely because he's going to make you build a Brunswick, a Portland. That you don't want it. It's a little sweetener for the deal.
Yeah. It might just be a week or two, but we will eventually do it. It's just a very slow process because we can't put it on the pick and place. Which is annoying.
You've got last two things, as you say, recombination engine and MTX8s, needing to be built and to be put out there.
This is literally it. It's us two. We do everything.
Yeah, there's no secret army of any kind of production house anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not, if people do want to ask us where their order is, genuinely, we do apologize if things are slow. Like, we are encountering, some delays in terms of, things not necessarily arriving in time when they're promised, but generally it's no more than a week's delay. And we have plenty of stock of everything. So it's just the wait is us genuinely working, you know, in the other room here, and soldering it like crazy.
5 of them.
Don't do that. I don't think there's even the stock online. Please don't do that.
You're gonna delay everyone else's MTX8s if you do that. There'll be like 20 MTX8s that don't get made.
But no, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, yeah, if you're happy to be patient, then thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, do be quick before I put the price up on the PayPal account.
Hand quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
No, don't worry. That's
cool. All right. Also, to come, in fact, the next Future Sound Systems video from me will be me editing the bit of the turning the recombination engine into a drum kit video.
Oh, cool.
There was only only ever a little preview in the video because it was about it's about 7 minutes of explaining the patch, and I thought for like the whole demo doesn't want another 7 minutes tagging on. It was a nice standalone. Take 3 oscillators, do this. And actually made a really cool drum kit, not just a quirky kind of, it's percussive, which is somewhat easy to do with oscillators and a couple of ECAs. But yeah, perfect. All right, great. Well, again, thanks for the time.
Amazing.
For the MTX8. It's great to work with, and I think it's going to be a more than one situation once I get the studio set up, because I think it's going to be the thing that I have a couple of stereo lines out to my kind of recording setup, and a send and return to like another little kind of effect station in the studio, and then I can just pin in. It just seems way more elegant than a patch bay. It just seems it can just be there. It's smaller. I can see it. I can write in big Sharpie on there. It can just be this synth to that in, that synth to that in. I think it's just going to work really well.
It was interesting being at the studio yesterday. No, just with the patch bays, because I'm just halfway through kind of wiring up another one, and going to patch stuff in and not being on a pin. It was like, oh
no,
God, this is a pain. You know, I hate cables. But yeah, no, it is. As soon as you get into that method of patching where it's just like, boop, it's great.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Final question from Dennis in the chat: will you do a Portland presentation like the Fonk one you did for Brunswick, where you walk through the circuit?
I mean, have we done a Portland workshop?
We've done one workshop. We didn't film because Portland is a bigger build.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough time to have a Q&A before doing the build, because it took a whole day.
Yeah. It takes maybe twice the time to build.
So we'd have to just make it. Maybe we will just make one. We could just have a quick video. But yeah.
Hey, we should do a live stream.
Yeah, we could.
Why don't we do a live stream?
Yeah, we could do a live stream about it. Do a drum synthesis workshop.
Yeah, this is how
with Mr. Mr. Dr. Drums over here.
Ping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we'd be happy to do that. The one thing we're a bit. I know we've had various email conversations with people about this. The one thing that we're kind of a little bit reluctant to do is just put schematics up, willy-nilly and freely, mainly because there are things in those products that we want to reuse. We're not necessarily worried about it getting, cloned or whatever, because I don't think there's anything particularly novel in there, but it just feels a bit strange to offer things.
They're your assets, each bit is a kind of asset that, you're well in your right to keep hold of that,
Yeah, and it's kind of like if people do build them and they find fault with their build, then we're more than happy to help them, because most of the things are quite easy to diagnose. Like, oh, my noise source isn't working.
If you do come to workshops, you do get a paper schematic.
Yes.
By the way,
yeah.
It's a bit of another thing, like our manual. The manual's not available online for the MTX8 because we want people to have the physical thing.
Yeah.
And that be sort of special. And I think the same thing with the schematics. I mean, obviously someone could just scan it and put it on the internet, and nothing you can do about that. But so there's something different about emailing people things like that. That feels a bit more, cheap. But yeah, but a workshop where we would maybe go through the schematic and talk about it all and stream that.
Yeah,
we could do that.
That would be a lot more.
The one we did with Brunswick, we did because Steve just did it for us as we did a workshop. Yeah. But yeah, we should just do it.
I mean, that it would also be a lot more kind of fruitful to the whole meaning of the project, because the both with Brunswick and Portland, it's like it's supposed to be an introduction into electronics. It's supposed to be an introduction into drum synthesis. It's supposed to be an introduction into sound synthesis. If we're doing the same with the electronics, it would feel a bit strange to just put the schematic up and be like, oh well, we're done with it. If we're actually doing something where we're saying like, okay, well let's have a look at the kick drum, and this is how we've designed the circuit. That feels a lot more wholesome to what the actual project is, you know.
But it's just carving out time for Portland. You know, you've got successful products to keep building. So excuse me. Yeah. On that note, COVID sneeze.
Oh no.
No, it's not. It's not all. Hay fever, I think.
You say that now.
Yeah, hay fever, I think. This time of year. Yeah. Anyway, let's leave it there for now, and I'm sure we'll be back in the near future, certainly before the end of the year, I would imagine, with other things to talk about. If not, I will pull you into some random stream, regardless of product or not. Anyway.
Yeah, do.
Sure.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Certainly something. It's great to see people in the chat that are on my Patreon for those that want to support my work that way and join that community. But definitely looking to get just regular kind of hangouts going, maybe an hour a month, and we'll just pull you in on that. Pull you in for just some general chat. And yeah, great. All right, thanks again, and I should chat to you soon. See everyone in the live chat soon too. Bye.